Hi folks, this is going to be a bit of a ramble vid, so feel free to throw it up in the background while you're grinding out the event, or just kick back and enjoy some random gameplay of Tim goofing around. Anyway, as some of you know, I have a somewhat direct communications channel to the devs and Gaijin staff through the Content Creator program, without having to wade through like 20 levels of forum moderation, curated support tickets, and all that. I wanted to share with you the type of stuff that I actually send to the snail beyond the big major topics that I've done videos on, like my suggestions for fixing bombers that they'll totally ignore. There's a big list of stuff that I send them every month that I'm going to share with you all. Like, I literally have all of this in a big document that I just copy-paste to them once a month. Some of these things are short and simple, others I'm going to have to explain. You probably won't agree with all of this, and that's okay, but I hope it'll at least be obvious that I'm doing what I can to try and give some constructive feedback up to the snail and, give them some stuff that hopefully they might take bits and pieces of it and make the game a little bit better. First though, a couple of things. I used to bug them constantly, like more than once a month, to do some kind of BR decompression for high-tiered aircraft. Well, that finally happened, so it's no longer on the list. I also shared something recently with them that I think is pretty important, and it's bugged me for literally years, going all the way back to like the MiG-19 PT being added in. You might have seen some leaks about upcoming vehicles, and take all leaks with a grain of salt, and noticed that there's stuff like the F-18C or the Su-24M that are being leaked. Well, I told the snail in pretty good detail, more than I'm going into here, that when they add a new modern vehicle, they should really start off with the base model, even if the base model has some issues, and not start with an upgraded model. Like, when they added the F-14A early, it preserved the hype of the new vehicle, and still left room for later models of the F-14 to come in that would have hype when they came in for being new and shiny and upgraded. But when they added like the Chinese J8 into the game, they added a later model to start off with. If they went back now and added the earlier model J8s, like the ones with the nose air intake, there wouldn't be nearly as much interest from the community because we already have the later ones. Similar thoughts with how they added an upgraded MiG-29 right out of the gate, the MiG-19 PT, and a few others. I really hope that when they add stuff like the F-18, the Rafale, Su-24, and like the J-10, that we get the base model to start off with. Anyway, on to the list. This is all in no particular order, but first up, Asia Pacific China players really need their own regional servers. This really ought to be self-explanatory. Next, allow us more privacy settings over our player card. People shouldn't be able to scout our stats and stuff if we don't want them to. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen an uptick lately in matches where someone will scout the enemy team's stat cards and throw something in chat like, Noob Slayer 666 has a good KD, big threat, target him first. Or Edgelord 420 looks like he sucks, easy kill. That kind of metagaming really shouldn't be possible. Next, we need more map bans, even if it's just for premium accounts. Self-explanatory. Some people really hate some of the maps. Next, map preference, like the thumbs up, thumbs down, like, dislike feature, should have more weight in the matchmaker. Right now, it seems like it doesn't do anything. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't mind waiting an extra 30 seconds if I could stop getting maps I don't like. Next, crew locks need to be reworked or removed. This is always contentious, but in my opinion, it's kind of self-explanatory. In my experience, crew locks really serve no real purpose these days, other than just to punish people who get griefed by their own team. Like in air battles, if somebody on your team bumps into you right after takeoff and spins you into the ground without crashing themselves, it's a crash for you, and you're back to the hangar and crew locked for 8 minutes, while the other guy just laughs without any consequences. Screw that. The intent of the crew lock mechanic was to prevent people from bailing out in the middle of a match while they still had vehicles they could use. But in practice, people just put fewer things in their lineups. Crew locks no longer serve the original purpose and should be removed or reworked. Next, reduce the team sizes in AirRB, at least at the higher tiers. Like, go down to 6v6, not 12v12. The current tick box to enable the smaller match sizes doesn't seem to be doing anything, and these smaller matches are still too big anyway. Next, the automatic mode switching on high-end radar sets is absolutely awful, and should either be removed or be a toggleable option, similar to how you have to toggle the B-scope square radar display in your options menu. Next, ground targeting mode on radar, like the Copio has, should be an itemized feature on the stat card. Call it GTM or something. Similarly, anti-ship targeting mode on radar, like the German Event Tornado has, should be an itemized feature on the radar stat card, along with like half a dozen or more missile features that should be itemized on the missile stat cards. Next, and some people will really disagree with this, remove or reduce the insane full coverage cloud cover over ground battles. All it does is frustrate people who end up crashing into mountains and get crew locked, especially on some maps where helicopters spawn in the clouds. If they're concerned about the effectiveness of close air support, find another way to address it, 'cause this ain't it. Next, basing everything on player statistics is a deeply flawed method of balancing for many purposes. It's okay to be subjective sometimes. Now, folks, I've done entire videos in the past rambling for half an hour or longer about how stupid it is to base everything off player statistics. This one really ought to be self-explanatory to anyone who's taken some math courses in high school. Next, nuke carrier planes in ground RB should have some insanely high repair cost. I'm talking 250,000 Silver Lions or more. This would truly discourage friendly fire griefers from shooting them down. And since the player in the nuke plane never has to pay that repair bill anyway, but a friendly team griefer does, it seems like a good way to cut down on the friendly fire. Next, and speaking of ground RB, research point rewards from ground battles need to go up significantly. Next, most radar sets seem to have problems locking enemy targets, and in a lot of cases they seem like they're slippery to radar locks, while friendly targets seem almost magnetic, regardless of range, angles, radar band, altitude, or other factors. Especially problematic is when you have enemies and friendlies that are like within 3 or 4 kilometers of each other. You have the enemy target selected, you try to lock it, and your radar seems to completely ignore the enemy target and snaps onto the friendly. It's been doing this for years. Please look into it. Next, we need some higher tier air battle maps with ships on them. Specifically, ships to attack and aircraft carriers to land on. Self-explanatory. Next, and relating to the radar thing I just griped about, the radar cross-section of missiles that are in flight needs to be reduced significantly. It should not be easier to lock on an air-to-air missile that's in flight 40 kilometers away than it is to lock an enemy aircraft 10 kilometers away. Next, I remind them about the detailed proposals I've sent over to make bombers more viable in air battles and request that they read them again. Next, please add an enduring confrontation type game mode with realistic battles, settings, and controls. The Air RBEC that everyone asks for. And make sure the rewards aren't a total joke like the helicopter PvE mode is. Personally, I would love if there was some long form of air battles that I could play for, more than 10 minutes at a time without needing a good simulator HOTAS setup. Next, IR missile slaving to radar rangefinders is no longer working. Please either fix this or post somewhere telling the community that it's intentional. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I hate it when they change stuff like this and say nothing. So we don't know if it's a bug, if it's an intentional modification to the game mechanic, or what the situation is. Next, and this is another one a lot of folks might not like, but the current situation with multipathing is a bit of an issue. Some active radar missile tactics might work in the game for one-on-one situations, playing cat and mouse with an opponent off at, medium or long range. But in the absolutely insane chaos we have in the game of 16 versus 16 matches, avoiding getting spam rammed out is almost entirely just luck at the moment, since you're getting attacked from 8 directions at once, almost non-stop, at least half of the time. Maybe reverting multipathing to 100 meters is the answer, maybe something else is, maybe this will be completely resolved by the suggestion for smaller team sizes, but brainstorm on this, please. Top-tier air battles right now are just way too frustrating. Next, spawn-to-spawn snipe kills in the first few seconds of a ground RB match should simply not be possible. This has been a really nasty pain point for me personally for years now, and I'll tell you with no shame that if I get sniped out 5 seconds after rolling out of spawn by some guy still in the enemy spawn on the other side of the map, I have absolutely zero incentive to spawn into another vehicle just so it can happen again and feed that spawn sniper another kill. They gotta do something about this. I really don't know what the solution is. Maybe it's just a map design problem, maybe they gotta give, spawn immunity at the start of a match, something. But it's a huge contributor to the one-and-done thing that everyone seems to hate, at least in my opinion. Next, low-tier, low-torque ground vehicles should not spawn inside of large pits that require them to climb out, slowly, in a traffic jam, at the start of a match. Self-explanatory. Next, air battles ought to get multiple spawn points, like multiple runways and or air spawns to choose from, the same way that ground battles do. This would add a lot of variety into air battles without really needing to do any major reworks to the game mode. Next, the minimum fuel load when spawning into a mission should not be longer than the mission timer. If the mission only lasts 20 minutes no matter what, we shouldn't be forced to spawn in with over an hour of fuel. I mean, we're almost there. We've got the fuel slider. Just take the ball into the goal and lower the minimums for us, please. Well, that's a lot. And it's not the only stuff I send to the snail, but it is the stuff that I pester them with literally every month. I try really hard in my vids, as any of you who've been here for a while will know, not to just whine and complain about the game all the time, so I hope that you'll indulge me in sharing my laundry list of gripes just this one time. Anyway, do you like this stuff? You hate it all? Got something I might want to add into the list? Drop a comment. And as always, thanks for watching.